my god, it's so cute. Excuse me, everyone. This is Minty Fries. I might need a minute. Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. This is Minty Fries. And today, you know that we had to go there. We had to. That's right, we're going to 3D print the Baby Yodas. We'll get started with the modeling and painting of this Baby Yoda model, but please note I wasn't totally happy with the way this one came out, so around the second half of the video, we're going to make a Rev 2 that looks much better. So please stick with me as we make 2 Baby Yodas today. So what do I think of The Mandalorian so far? Well, I liked it. I like it a lot. It's assuredly better than the prequels. I think we'd have few arguments there, and I think it's better than other modern Disney Star Wars spin-offs like Solo and Rogue One. I think it's probably decent because of Jon Favreau, who is basically the king of making pretty good, or at very least passable Disney content. And a lot of other people they got to work on it have pretty decent track records. There were many surprises here, moving into spoiler territory now, but for instance, Werner Herzog is in it. Why? I mean, I'm totally cool with that, and I love it, but why? I understand why he was in The Boondocks that one time, because The Boondocks is actually a pretty smart satire show. But why would he take a job like this, especially at his age? It's just strange. I figured he'd be too cool to want to appear in something like this. And for another thing, Taika Waititi is in it, and he's got a directing credit for the show. That one makes a little more sense because he directed Ragnarok and starred as Korg. He's been working with Disney for a little while now, so I can see how they got him to do it. I absolutely love Taika Waititi, by the way. I've been following his career for a long time now, so I'm glad he's the next Alan Tudyk in terms of voice acting. Speaking of which, wouldn't it be cool if someone made a robot movie featuring Waititi, Alan Tudyk, and Vin Diesel? But my god, man. Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda, the new darling of the internet. It's so great that the writers of this show took a risk and decided to follow a story arc like this. They could have just done a very standard Wild West bounty hunter story, but instead they went the extra mile in the creativity department. And they did a fantastic job on the design. I think that he's so cute, even cuter than the likes of Baby Groot, because he's so real looking. He's a strange mixture of actual Yoda, a human baby, and a range of baby animals. They didn't make his eyes too big or his features too soft. He's got some grit to him, and a bit of a Benjamin Button complex, and it all mixes together in such a way that, in my opinion, Baby Yoda is now the single most cute thing humankind has ever created. It's also strange because I don't like human babies. I don't find them cute or fun to be around in any way. But I love baby animals, right? I look at baby animals on Instagram all day, every day. Baby Yoda resembles a human baby mostly and behaves rather like a human baby, apart from being probably 50 years old, but it's in such a toned-down way that he's only cute and not one bit annoying. Theory-wise, here's what I think, and I haven't really heard anyone else talk about this. I think that the Baby Yoda actually is Baby Yoda, and Yoda gets reborn every time he dies like a phoenix. And that's why he was able to teach Jedi for 800 years. It's because he lives a relatively normal lifespan, and then he dies, and then he gets reborn from his own ashes, as it were. Not really ashes in this context, but you know what I mean. And that's why he was so nonchalant about dying in front of Luke. There are some problems with this theory. Yoda described his death in Jedi as forever sleep, which it wouldn't be if he was going to be reborn shortly afterwards. Another problem is that Yoda became a Force ghost almost immediately after dying. So is it possible that he can die, become a Force ghost, and also get reborn as he normally would before he learned how to become a Force ghost from Qui-Gon? And if he dies again, could he now have 2 Force ghosts, one from the first time he died and another one from the second time he died, and so on? Was the Force ghost in The Last Jedi one of several? Does Force Ghost Yoda have the ability to call down lightning now because he's died several times between Return of the Jedi and Last Jedi, and he can combine all his Force ghosts and make them more powerful? On second thought, that theory is stupid. Forget I said anything. Mandalorian writers, if you are listening, please do not make this theory true. Okay, so as I said, I'm not totally happy with the way this turned out. His face isn't chibi enough, and I didn't quite get the color right. So let's go back to Blender, and I want to reform his head a little bit and also model the floating remote control carriage thing, and I'll print Baby Yoda inside the floating carriage. I saw another theory that said that this Baby Yoda really is 50 years old, and that it was born around the same time as Anakin, and that it was possibly the child of Yoda and that other Yoda species member of the Jedi Council. That would be fine. I would sincerely like it if the Mandalorian continues to dance around the canonicity of the prequels, similar to how episodes 7 and 8 have done so far. Have you noticed that? Those two movies have made several references to episodes 4 through 6, but haven't really spoken much about anything that happens in the first three. I'd be quite happy if all Star Wars content moving forward continued to generally avoid references to the prequels. I know that many will disagree with me here, that many quite like the prequels, but I don't care. Another funny thing is that I thought that, at least in terms of the now no longer canon EU, that Mandalorians were a long extinct tribe and that Boba Fett wasn't actually one of them but just wore their armor. It's interesting how there's a whole underground society of them now. One problem I do have with this show is that just like in episode 6, the Mandalorian who may or may not be Boba Fett acts like a complete idiot. He's always letting his guard down, getting bested by people he should easily be able to overpower, and generally behaving clumsy. I get that he's like cavalier to the extent that his brashness sometimes gets him into trouble, but half of the time he just does Clark Griswold levels of stupid. Like when the first episode opens up and he gets in the bar fight, he fires his stupid grappling hook at a guy and spends several critical seconds trying to reel him in. Why? Why does he do this? While he's reeling, the guy has time to take out his blaster, aim at him, and fire. Why did he let his guard down for so long just to reel him in, and why would he even be interested in reeling him in? He wasn't after him, he was after the blue guy. Why not just shoot him with a blaster and be done with it? Then he captured the blue guy, let him down into the bowels of his ship, and gave him time to start going through his stuff before the Mando finally came down, snuck up on him, and threw him into the carbonite freezer. But what if the blue guy actually grabbed one of the guns and took the opportunity to fire at the Mando? Just stupid. And then there was another time he lands on a strange planet and immediately starts using his rifle blaster scope to start looking around, before even taking the time to look around with his own eyes. Or for that matter, using his ship's onboard scanners to scan for threats, which I assume is a de facto procedure when you're an experienced interstellar traveler landing on strange planets all the time. Of course, he gets attacked by a giant space creature, which to his luck turns out to be a friendly creature, but he ends up with a terrible arm wound as a result. Why didn't he scan first, or at least look around with his physical eyes before committing his entire attention immediately to looking down his narrow scope? And then he gets bested by Jawas, who for some reason decided not to use a blaster on him until he got to the top of the sandcrawler, lucky him. He then falls all the way down to the ground, and I'm assuming is a little more hardy than a human, because that kind of fall would have killed or at least horribly injured a normal human. Maybe that's why he's so cavalier. He knows he's built like a tank, so like a gamer who only uses cheat codes, he takes tons of risks and never does anything to defend himself. Or maybe Baby Yoda healed him off camera. And his ship got stripped by the Jawas because he left it unattended. Oh, and that time he walked into the middle of a skirmish and started yelling at the Taika Waititi robot to stand down. Of course, this robot, which he just physically witnessed with his own physical eyes, has been taking down enemies like wet napkins using its split-second reaction time. It's like if you just saw a tiger maul 20 people right in front of you, ripping them apart in seconds apiece, would you just waltz right into the tiger pit? Of course not. That's what the Mando does. And of course he gets shot because he's an idiot. They toned down the dumbness in episode 3 though, so maybe the writers realized that their badass protagonist is a little too goofy. These nitpicks aside though, I really do like the show so far. I mentioned that it's great that they seem to be taking risks and including off-the-beaten-path story elements. It was totally unexpected for the show to essentially be about a badass bounty hunter caring for a baby green alien, and I just love it. What an interesting story decision. It totally works. Well, here we go. Here's floating Baby Yoda. I think this one turned out much better. Anyway, if you want to 3D print your own version of this, check out the Thingiverse link in the description of this video. And once again, I'd like to reiterate that you should leave a comment and let me know if you want something like this as a giveaway. If I get enough audience response, I just might be giving away builds like this one on a regular basis. So if you are a fan of my videos, you could end up with your own little Baby Yoda figurine or something similar. Anyway, thanks for watching and may the Force be with you.